Welcome to the Seer Show. Join us as we dive into the dynamic world of health, wellness, mindset, and fitness with the unparalleled guidance of lifelong knowledge seekers, Sifu Raphael and Nikki Gangemi. Sifu and Nikki will unlock groundbreaking insights with extraordinary guests from around the globe. You'll get the latest holistic approaches to well-being with a sharp focus on the powerful connection between mind, body, and soul. Get ready to take the leap. It's time to embrace a brighter and healthier future with us at the Seer Show.
Welcome to the Seer Show.
Hi, everyone.
So happy to have, hi. As you can see, David is in for Sifu Raphael today. He's co-hosting along with me. I got to have you as my co-host for the month of July, and here we are in August. So welcome back, David.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Nikki.
You're welcome. And we are excited to bring on our guests today. We've got Judy Kane and Jennifer. I'm going to ask you to say your last name for me so you say it correctly.
Gligoric.
Jennifer Gligoric. Oh, welcome. What kind of a name?
Serbian.
Oh, Serbian.
Yeah.
Very nice. Gligoric. I love it. So thanks for coming on today to talk about beliefs to breakthroughs. I am super excited for this conversation. It's right up my alley. So my first question for everybody is, when you think of the phrase beliefs to breakthroughs, what is the first moment or experience that pops into your mind, either from your own life or in your professional life working with clients?
Well, I would say, I'm going to go. Okay.
Yeah, go right ahead.
I would say when I think about beliefs to breakthroughs, the first thing I think of course, is limiting beliefs, these things that are hidden inside of us that are stopping us. And I think about the book, Who Moved My Cheese? And in that book, it's this, I say it's a book. It's really like a pamphlet. It's the best read on the planet. It's short, it's quick, and it's just packed full of just aha moments. But one of the mice, it has mice in the book. You have to, I'm not going to tell you too much because you have to read it. But they ask themselves this question when faced with these challenges, right? Challenges that it was like life or death for them, right? They need to find this cheese, right? And they have to go exploring. They've got to change their past. They have to change, right? And so they ask themselves the question, well, what would I do if I was not afraid? And that question, after doing that, I just paused with that and I thought, wow, what would I do if I wasn't afraid? And then I realized, wow, I really let fear of these things dictate a lot of things to me. And I don't want fear to be in control of my life. And so now when I work with clients or whatever I do, that is a question I'll ask all the time. What would we do? And then we talk about the fear of it. And we realize that most of the fears, our bodies consistently, even with neuroscience, we're creating some false realities to ignore red flags, to do things, to keep us in a protective state. And once you can break through that and ask you what you wouldn't do with you're afraid, then you realize that you never have to be betrayed again. You never have to fall down another path, because it does open your eyes to confronting the things that are uncomfortable truth. So that's what I think of.
That's a great question. What would I do if I wasn't afraid? Great question to ask yourself, and then just see what comes to mind.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Thank you for that. Judy, what comes to mind for you?
Well, when I work with clients, what I do is actually change the subconscious beliefs. So a big part of that is, where are the fears, right? Because it's all subconscious beliefs that are creating the fear. They're things you learn by the time you're 7 and store there. And that's how you see the world, right? And they aren't necessarily rational. They might have served you once, but they don't necessarily reflect a real world truth, right? They're just your perception of the world. So when you can break through those, you open up all sorts of different opportunities, right? You don't have to believe there are a limited number of clients, or you don't have to believe that you have to be somebody different in a relationship. There's all sorts of breakthroughs that you can make once you can change some of those subconscious beliefs.
That's right. They feel very real when you believe them. Like it feels like reality, and it does not feel like a belief oftentimes.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I often think that when we talk about breakthroughs, what do I have to believe to have a breakthrough? And then remind ourselves of that. Because sometimes, you know, we say, oh, I believe, and it's really not there. But what do I have to believe? And as we're going through the actions or the tasks or the things that help us get to the goal we want, I often have to ask myself, Dave, what do you have to believe? But remind myself what I have to believe. Because sometimes I forget which, you know, what we're supposed to do. And, you know, we're inundated with, like, you know, all sorts of books and literature and videos and friends and professionals. So sometimes we have to look for that item or that belief that resonates with us most, you know, not with it for others. So I'll say, you know, okay, we're getting close, but what do I have to believe? What do, you know, that type of thing. Does that make sense?
I like that question. What do I have to believe? And I guess it's in order for me to take this aligned action step or go towards this thing that I want to do. What would I have?
That's a great one. Oh, sorry. But I would say that's a great one for imposter syndrome. If you have a hard time, well, what do I have to believe? Well, I have to believe that what I'm doing is worthy and I am here to help people and that I am actually good at it. Right. And so what evidence do I have to this? Right. Well, I've got, you know, all my evidence. And so, okay, well, now you kind of got to get over it. It's easier said than done.
Oh, it's so much easier said than done.
Now, Nikki, are we talking about major breakthroughs or day-to-day breakthroughs?
Anything. It's what, that's a great point. It could be, there, you know, size doesn't matter. It can be a huge breakthrough. It could be everyday breakthroughs. Yeah. Do you have an example of that, David?
Well, yeah, I do. It's funny because, well, first of all, Nikki, thank you. You always make me think every time I talk to you. And I'm pretty upset about that because I didn't want to go that deep. This is what I found is that, you know, I think I told you my wife and I do some country line dancing. And one of the things that, you know, most men, we don't have the rhythm or the ability, most men, you know. And so what do I have to believe that Dave needs to do so he moves more congruently and smoothly, or, you know, that type of thing? And I found that helps. But the point I was going to make, it's the day-to-day stuff, right? That is always challenging. You know, the big breakthrough is always awesome and we're on our way there. But it always seems to be for me, the day-to-day stuff, you know? And so in that instance, yes.
Yeah, I think being mindful and practicing that more. Like I was going through a time where I was just really, I don't know, I was upset about chores with the partner who doesn't do very good chores, right? Great, you know, but love him to death. But then I was just feeling really, really mad, right? I was in an old house. This is before I renovated it. It's over 100 years old. So of course we didn't have a dishwasher. I didn't have a dishwasher with little children. 15 years, didn't have a dishwasher. And I just really hated that task. And so I was, you know, I'm a coach. I always have a coach, and I usually have a coach and a mentor. And they were like, I want you to practice mindfulness. And I have, you know, as someone who deals with a lot of numbers and consulting and stuff like that, I'm like, woo woo, you know, like that's what I think in my head when people say that, mindfulness. And then I'm like, okay, but I'm going to be, you know, I'm on a journey, you know, to consistently be a learner. Okay, tell me about this mindfulness stuff, right? And she said, I want you to go out in spring for the extra money for a really good scent on your dishwashing detergent, right? And I'm like, huh? And she goes, I want you to think about how pretty the bubbles are. I want you to think about how good it smells and that nice squeaky feeling when you have a clean plate. I want you to actually just say, I'm going to really try to enjoy these dishes, right? And I thought, that's the dumbest thing I ever heard. Okay, I'll try it. And so I went out and I got this dishwashing liquid that I really liked. And I forget what it was. It was like the cucumber melon. I really like that scent. I think it's really clean. And it was it was like something like that, but I think more citrusy now that I think about it. But anyway, I'm doing it. And sure enough, I actually enjoyed it. I actually felt in that moment, I stopped zoning out and thinking about and sitting in my resentment of, I'm just not making enough now. I really need to get this dishwasher in. Why do I have to be the one to always do this? Why can't they wash up against themselves, kids and stuff like that? And instead, I just decided I'm going to make this task better. And it was revolutionary. I started doing that in all these little things. And then I felt like more free. Before it's like I never had time. That was a feeling I had. I never have time. And once I started doing that, it felt like I had more time because I actually enjoyed what I was doing more rather than just anesthetizing myself from this painful thing that I had to get through. And I've put that in many different ways and in business ways and work with clients on that. And it's amazing how that works, the little things. I think you're right, how they can be the bigger things.
Well, and your energy was being directed towards something that was a little bit, it wasn't being used on a low vibration energy, if you will.
Yeah.
Right? The resentment, the anger, the this isn't fair, whatever the vibe was before.
Yeah, it was very negative, I'm going to tell you.
It wasn't making you feel any better, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It wasn't.
Yeah.
There's so much relief we can get in the moment. I have done this naturally. I've noticed, I didn't always notice, but if there was ever a time where I felt embarrassed, maybe, I think back to school. You're in school and you say something, you raise your hand and you say something in the classroom and you hear the laughing and maybe somebody makes a remark and it's not nice. I would find that I would really zoom into the moment and I would suddenly become hyper aware of how the pencil felt in my hand. Just all these little details. And it's almost like it gave me a reprieve. Like I didn't have to feel the embarrassment as much. And I noticed that I continue to do that into adulthood. So it made, when I think of mindfulness, I now practice it on purpose where, it's like, okay, how does the temperature of my mug feel? Let me smell the cinnamon vanilla coffee. And there's such pleasantness and relief in that. But yeah, I found that interesting, like using it with embarrassment to kind of escape from that horrible feeling and just find relief in all the sensory details.
I love that was just naturally what you did.
That was a great.
So is that normal? I mean, do you all do that, or is that just something that I naturally did?
No, I think you found a little superpower. I'm very proud of the little girl you. I'm like, oh, good for you. That is good. Yeah. Yeah. Pat her and you on the back.
A lot of this has to do with, living in the present, right? And doing those things. And one of the things, I'll give you an example that I had read. Eleanor Roosevelt was asked, there was a particular person that didn't like their job. And they said, my job really sucks. Everything is just terrible, about it. But I can't leave my job. That's how I make my money and, live your dreams. And she said to her, to the person, said, get curious. Just be curious. And it changes everything. So even things where you procrastinate, I have found for me, is that I just try to get curious. Now, there's other things I don't want to do. I mean, but many times when I have a project and I'm like, oh, this is going to be a monster. Well, besides breaking it up in smaller pieces, why don't we just get a little curious? Being in that moment, kind of like Nikki's saying, be curious. She's wondering the temperature, we're feeling human beings, right? So it's not just emotional, but it's, So I think that that's really important, is to be curious about the present moment, and it carries us through. And it does the things that we need, meaning whether we need to learn something or whatever it might be. So anyway, that's what I find, is that being curious is a big help.
That is a big help. Being curious in general, it's always, even if you're having a conversation with someone and maybe you're not understanding where they're coming from, to just be like, interesting, I wonder, and go into that curiosity could help to understand maybe where that person is coming from.
Yeah, because if you're an entrepreneur in business, you have to be very curious, and you have to think, well, being curious about the avatar, right? You don't want to sell everything to everyone. That's a nightmare. You're just going to burn yourself out, right? So you need to find like what your divine purpose is, like really hone into it. And where those people live, where are they consuming their content? How can I reach out to them differently? What are ways I can network? I mean, being curious is the hallmark of like a really good entrepreneur. But even if you're working for somebody else, the people that are curious, that are the think like an owner type of people, they're the ones that do really well, and they enjoy it more.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think enjoying is the key word. For a very long time, I had made it a goal of mine to not get below curious, right? I mean, it's always good to be, even happier than curious. But if you can limit the amount of time you spend below curious, you got better energy to use on other things, right? It's not as exhausting. It's definitely not as stressful. If you can, at least stay at that curious mark, and instead of just, wrapping yourself around an axle, right? Just going down that spiral, and that's not comfortable. It's not productive.
Yeah,
Sometimes,
go ahead, David.
No, sometimes with conversations with people, I'm sure sometimes when you come across somebody that you're like, oh, I don't have the energy for this conversation, I just not interested, I have other things on my mind. Coming back, like we were talking about, to the present moment, and just be curious about them and asking questions, of course, tells their story. One of the things I do when I meet somebody new, I will say to them, I said, hi, my name is Dave, and we're chatting, and I'll say, listen, tell me your story in 5 minutes. And they go, 5 minutes? And I said, yeah, I know it's a bigger story, but here's the thing, I'd really like to know a little about you. And they'll say, well, what do you want to know? And I say, well, whatever comes into your mind will be fine. We'll go from there. And so I actually, it's so funny. I said, but I'm putting the timer on. You only have 5 minutes.
Yeah.
So I people like to, pontificate and move on.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And then the introverts run.
Right. But you find out very interesting things, right, about people and what they want to tell you, and sometimes they share, and sometimes, it's just about business, or maybe their personal life, whatever. And I find that interesting. That's where the curious comes in, but you got 5 minutes.
Yeah.
I love that.
Right.
Thanks, Judy.
You do need that time box on it, right?
Right?
Yeah, you don't want to be a therapist, right?
That's true,
Unless you are a therapist, and then you might really like that. Yeah.
When Judy was talking about being above curious, I think that, or don't go below curious, it made me think of Abraham Hicks, the work of Abraham Hicks, and the emotional scale, and using that emotional guidance scale to move from let's say, to a higher vibration emotion. And curious is on there. So maybe if you're feeling frustrated or irritated by a conversation that you're having with someone, it goes back to, well, if I can move up to curiosity, then maybe I can get to comfort and even joy, enjoying talking with this person. Mm-hmm.
And I think you make an excellent point, Nikki, because that particular scale is really important. And if more people knew it, that you mean I can try to get to joy, I can get to the top, and you can actually sustain it. It's not dependent on other people or situations. It's like they always say, it's your response to it. you know? And so, you know, do you ever have something silly or something really happen to you and you go, oh, and you start to laugh because it's so silly what has
Mhm.
happened? And we talked about embarrassment. You know, many of us are easily embarrassed, right? But sometimes you just got to laugh and say, you know, it happened again, or whatever it might be.
It
So
happened
there's some
again. There
joy
it
in
goes.
life. Yeah, that right, exactly. You know,
Oh, this is fun. That's interesting. I heard we were talking the other day and talking about how life is not happening to you, it's happening for you.
Mm,
And that when people start to realize that, okay, even in the worst situations, it's not happening to you, it's happening for you. And you have an incredible amount of agency to
yes.
make changes for yourself and how you're experiencing this. And you can make the choice to just go, wow,
yeah,
this is
right.
fun. But, what we got to do next, and to get through it to the next side. And you can make that choice to change that personality trait. I think
Yeah.
the worst thing is not even when you're not curious is or angry or frustrated. I find the worst place to be is apathy. When people
Mhm.
get to the apathetic to where it's just meh, they're not mad, they're not anything. They just
Mhm.
kind of anesthetize themselves. They doom scroll, way too much. The whole idea of bed rotting is the only thing they want to really do. That really worries me a lot. I'm
Mm,
like, oh, that's really not. I mean, I understand the experiencing nothing so that something wonderful can come into that space. I get that, but that's intentional. I find it, and it's a new, like this new phenomenon where people are talking about bed rotting and doom scrolling, and it's really anesthetizing themselves without like alcohol or
mm,
drugs. And so I find
Mm.
like that's when you really know if that's where you're at. I would really, if you're listening, if that's where you're really at, I would say put some more intentionality in it. You're doing it for a reason. What's the reason you're doing it? And if
Mhm.
it's to escape or to get away from something, you have to confront it to get through it. That's a breakthrough you absolutely need for yourself.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point. And that goes back to asking questions, which you
Mm-hmm.
started us with, what would I do if I wasn't afraid? Or David asking, what would I have to believe? I think when we get to that place, whether it's apathy or any other, a low vibe emotion that we don't want to feel, sometimes I'll realize, oh, I'm feeling this way because I'm making statements. And a lot of them are dead end statements that leave me
right.
nowhere. Like,
Yeah.
this is hard. Okay, this is hard. Where do I go from there? What if I turn that into a question? How easy can I stand it? What would
Hmm.
this look like if it were easy? What's one thing that could be easy for me to do just to get started? And then your brain is going to answer the questions. So I feel like asking questions can lead to a breakthrough. And as a small step, like David was talking about the everyday breakthroughs, maybe it could just to get us to move up the scale from apathy
Right,
to
right.
something
True.
that is a little higher vibe.
I like that, Nikki, because one of the things that Jennifer said earlier was life is happening for you, and when you ask those questions, I'm wondering if we're making it easy for us to adopt a belief, because some beliefs are just too hard to swallow, right?
Um,
You know, whereas if you start to think of life is happening for you, that might be an easier belief to adopt, and like you
right.
said, get you up that one more rung that says,
Mm-hmm.
a
Mm-hmm.
little higher. I think that can be very powerful, because sometimes making that leap, and of course, all of us are surrounded by ultra successful people, people who have however they define it, and sometimes there's a little FOMO involved in that, and sometimes there's like, a little envy. We're human, we wish the very best for them, those type of things. But if I look at myself and say, gee, I just got to that next rung. That's huge for me. This is great. To other people, it's not, Dave, what are you talking about? Everybody does. I said, yeah, but I just got there.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
that's
appreciating your own successes, I think, is huge. You always look forward and see what's left to do, but a lot of times you
right.
don't look back and see how far you've come.
Yeah. Very
Yes.
nice. Yes. Judy, do you keep a journal to see those things? Because I don't keep a journal in that element.
I don't keep a journal, but every so
Yeah.
often I'll hit a time point, and it's like I'll reflect back, just
Yeah.
and it's like, wow, that's a lot. It didn't feel like it, or I didn't recognize it at the time, but good job. You're making progress here.
I find that quantifying my goals has been the biggest thing for me. Again, it's back to numbers, and I'm not naturally a numbers person, so it's hard for me. I wanting to look at dashboards and things like that. I just want to I do want to check out for that, but I've come to appreciate it because, if you were to, I work with a lot of doctors and people like that. And I asked them, well, what do you really want? Right. Well, I just want patients to love me, or I want my people to love me. Okay, great. So how do we know when that happens? And then you have to pull it out of them, and they'll say, well, I guess they'll refer people to me. Okay, great. That's a good one. What else? Well, they'll give me a 5-star review. Yeah. Okay. Or they'll stay committed to the treatment plan that I have. It's 3 months. They'll stay committed. Okay, great. So let's start to track that. And how did we do last month? Okay, well, we got 2 referrals. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to make a goal to get 3, and then we're going to see what our big goal is going to be, and we're going to march towards that big goal. So even if you have this ethereal, I just want my patients to love me, or my clients, or I want to bring color to the world because you're a florist, whatever it is, there is a way to track it to where every day you can go, you know what? Oh, we did good this month. We did good to put more color into the world. We were able to increase this by this. And then you feel more aligned towards what that divine purpose maybe you are a florist to bring color into the world, or a painter, or a roofer. I want families to feel safe in their homes and to protect them from rain and whatever it is. If you're connected to that and you're tracking that, then the whole team and you can get on board with that. So I find that tracking it really keeps you much more centered towards it.
Absolutely.
One of the things that I think, and this goes with Judy, because Jennifer, I think you made another good point, but what Judy was implying, and help me if I got this wrong, Judy, is that sometimes we have to reflect on it, right? And say, we're tracking it, but yeah, that was a good thing. So sometimes when I'm doing a marketing strategy for a particular client, and let's say we're Zooming, and I see that face of theirs going, that face that you go, okay, not feeling comfortable with what I'm asking you and your team to do. I got it. Okay, this is, let's talk a little more about it. So one of the things that I do, and Nikki's going to like this, is that, a lot of times I'll, with their permission, I'll record our meeting, because Dave doesn't retain everything, so I try to record everything. And so I'll ask ChatGPT, which knows me quite well now. I'll say, at any point, do you feel in this conversation that so-and-so was not happy with where we were going, or what were they happy about? And it picks it out. It's like having an assistant. That's all. And it'll say, Dave, listen, here's in this particular part of the conversation, he did or she did say this, this, and that, which I would interpret that they like where it's going. Also, I think that there might be an issue here because they're not all on board with this particular strategy or thought. And sometimes I can't pick that up. Those of you, all 3 of you are very intuitive, may pick it up, but I need to somehow quantify it and say, good. And then the next time I have a meeting, I'll say, Jim, last time we talked this, I got the feeling that you were blah, blah, blah. And he says, yeah, you're right, Dave, because whatever it might be. So it helps get closer. And so, because you hate to always ask, well, what do you feel about that at this time? How's it, every meeting, you don't want to do that, but you want to put something in there and get that transcript that says, oh, okay, they're good with this. They're good with
that.
This
Is a great tool.
Yes.
It is.
That is a great tool. I use AI a lot for my, to summarize long coaching calls and things like that. But that's a great tip. I'm going to start to use that. That's really good.
Right. So when you prompt it, right, Jennifer, you're going to have to think about your prompt, and you'll do it a couple of times till you get the perfect prompt, right? Yeah. So some of the answers you're going to go, what? What happened here? But then you get that perfect prompt that's just you and what you're looking for, and it works very good. Because I see AI as an assistant to somebody who's helping me, among other things.
Among others, yeah. Yeah, I've seen it. I look at it also as my thinking partner. And similar to you, David, I have used it. There was an email that I received from someone who was going to potentially be a client. And when I read the email, it sounded like he was annoyed. And I wasn't sure, because going back to beliefs are a filter, and we see and hear and experience through our beliefs. So I asked ChatGPT. I put what I said in the email, I pasted what he said in the email, and I said, please analyze this conversation, and what tone, do you see? Something like that, I said. And Chad agreed with me. He was perturbed. I wasn't imagining it.
Good. And one has to be discerning, right? Because sometimes it doesn't understand, what you're really asking.
Right.
So you can do that. But Nikki, that's a great move on that. That's fantastic.
I wanted another opinion outside of myself, because like I said, we listen through our beliefs. So.
Getting a true neutral opinion, even though, AI, I use an AI called Centra, right? But getting that other opinion that's a true neutral is really, really helpful, because we can't help but bring our own bias in our things into things. That's our color that makes us unique and skilled and wonderful at what we do. But we also, can appreciate that true neutral. This is what I'm seeing. I have a funny story about AI. I got to tell you really quick though. So I was working with a client, and she had a younger staff, and they were getting very frustrated because they were getting busier and they didn't have their phone time that they were getting. They'd have to put it away. And it was, and the client started saying, are you okay? Are you okay? And of course she picked up on it. He was not okay. He needed this downtime he wasn't getting. So anyway, the conversation did not go well. It was kind of grueling for them, very defensive, whatever. And so she goes, oh, I'm going to have to let this person go, all those things that business owners think of. And then she gets this really well-worded email on like Sunday, where they were like, I realized that I came across as this, blah, blah, blah. And at the end, it had the ChatGPT prompt. Do you think you want to change the tone for this? ChatGPT can do that. He had copied it and pasted it completely.
That's funny.
And I said, don't bring it up, because it was good. It was, at least they were using it right. Don't bring it up. But I have to admit, we did have the biggest laugh over that, because they forgot to take off the bottom part.
That's funny.
So, yeah. So yeah, everybody's using it.
Oh yeah.
Well, good for him for recognizing the tone one. Right.
Yeah. He did. He was like, man, that wasn't good, and I need help, and so yeah. But still, it was a little bit. It was kind of funny.
Yeah, it makes for a funny story. That's for sure.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah. When I think of, I wanted to bring this up and get your opinion on this. When I think of, for me anyway, I could speak to this. I noticed that there's often a breakdown before the breakthrough. And now that I know that, when I notice that I'm getting into a space where I feel like things are spiraling, things are falling apart, there's just a lot of stretches, like long stretches of negative, I'm just going to use that word, or resistance. Now I get excited because I think, oh, there's a breakthrough on the other side of this. And that starts to get me curious. So just share any stories that come to mind, or if you have experienced that too, where the breakdown comes before the breakthrough.
Nikki, do you have an example, a particular one?
Yeah, I could use one for myself. There was a time when I was still in my former life of being an elementary school teacher before I resigned from that job. And I was so unhappy. I had been unhappy for over a decade. And I just didn't think there was anything else possible for me. There was that limited thinking. I was making dead-end statements. I can't leave a paycheck. I have a mortgage to pay. Statement, dead-end statement. And I had another opportunity come in front of me with starting a business and getting into the coaching industry. And I could remember I had that on the floor moment, except I wasn't in the bathroom like Liz Gilbert from Eat, Pray, and Love. I was in the kitchen, and I was on the floor leaning up against my refrigerator and just totally just broke down. And that's when I attracted a business coach that came into my life, and she opened up a door for me. And she said, you can go from local to global and go from working with children to working with adults. And I'm going to show you how to do it. And that was my breakthrough to see that there was something else that was even possible. And shortly after, I resigned from the teaching job, and that was back in 2019. So there was, it was hard before it became good. And then I think of the butterfly analogy. That butterfly, it's got to be uncomfortable as it's trying to push its way through the cocoon before it breaks free. And it's that beautiful butterfly.
Yeah, that's a powerful story.
That was what I first thought of when you said that, of butterflies, and there are various examples in nature of that, right? Where there's like, it's the caterpillar isn't even a caterpillar anymore. When it's in the cocoon, it's like mush, right? It totally dissolves before it reconstructs itself into the next version, right?
Yes.
I can't think of a time when I've experienced that myself, but I have heard of several people who have had those moments of despair right before there was a huge burst of insight, where they were getting ready to. The man who developed Psych K, it was the beginning of that was he was just at the end of his frustration, and it's like all these things were going wrong, and he was just like yelling at the sky basically, and then all of a sudden this huge amount of really useful information became available to him.
I love that.
And so I love those stories. I think they're great, because those really would be indications of, all right, yeah, something good's coming.
Something good. But let me start getting excited instead of going down the rabbit hole of this is bad.
Yeah.
Well, what is that Tai Chi thing? Pain is just pain. It's just another state that we have to move through to get to another side. And unfortunately with humans, if we don't get enough pain, we don't move forward. And sometimes, if you're just okay with being okay, then, if you're a coach and you get people like that and they're just really okay, sometimes they're not the best. They're not good clients. They have to be at a painful place, because you're like, what is truly going to motivate you to get away from what you're doing right now, which is what you've been doing for a while, to get you to the other side. And so sometimes people are like, I don't know, I just think I want this. I'm like, yeah, I just don't think you're ready yet, right? Because they're not at that point. It's got to get to a point to where they're like, no, I know I've got to do something different. This is not working for me. I just don't know how to get to the other side. But I'm not going to live like this anymore. When you start hearing statements like that, then you're like, okay, you're really ready.
Yes, exactly. That's how you know you're ready, when you can start hearing something other than the story that you've been repeating to yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Looks like somebody's talking to us.
Good stuff. Oh, there was a comment that I was showing. Somebody was relating to how AI can help, and how there's a lot of positive benefits to it.
Yeah. There's part of me thinks, oh, AI, burn it, kill it with fire, Terminator. Let's get away from it. And then the other part's like, oh, wow, this is just taken what would have a write-up I would have done on a session or something. And it would have taken me days maybe to do it really correctly. And now it's literally in moments. You put the transcript and it's all right there.
And it's all right there. Yeah. Hello to Diana Capra. She's saying that, you will be ready to change when you are done feeling the pain. Yeah. So
I agree with you, Diana.
Pain can be a positive thing.
I find that a lot of times, let's say stress or things aren't working out, things like that, a lot of times it's because I'm exhausted, just mentally and then physically. When I'm more resourceful, I can handle these things. It's not a problem. So I'm going to speak like a man for a minute. Naps are good. All right. So it seems to me that sometimes we have to, what's the term? Not recoil, but just refresh, you know,
That's right.
you know, because there's only so much this body and mind can take. And of course we're pushing it. We're always pushing it, but it's kind of like, oh, I need time just to stop. No more talking, everybody.
Yeah, that nap can be a little reset for you. And speaking of that, listen to this message.
You followed the rules, tried the restrictions, counted the carbs, the steps, and the failures. You're not lazy, you're exhausted from doing it all without real change. What if the problem isn't you, but the plan? Sifu's Mind Body Method is a 90-day transformation built on 7 unshakable pillars: mindset, movement, nutrition, hydration, fasting, journaling, and faith. This isn't another shortcut. It's your structure, your strength, your reset. You don't need harder, you need better. Ready to begin? Start today.
Start today. So here's a question I have for all of you. When you think of a breakthrough that either you or a client had, what was one mindset shift that made that even possible? What comes to mind when you think of that?
I'll just say that there's not enough hours in the day. I can't tell you how many times I've worked with clients, and even with myself, I just don't have enough time. When really it was, I wasn't using the time I had effectively, or they weren't using their time effectively. And usually with the people I work with, you know, small to medium business owners, they're either stuck in admin duties or they're stuck in the actual fulfillment, because that's the job they created for themselves. They created a job, and now they can't get out of it to really be like the CEO of their business and move it. And so that mindset shift to start thinking about it differently and thinking about their time, how they spend their time. Well, I have to be with these people because this is what I do, rather than I need to bring someone in and show them how I do it and have systems to do that so that I can help more people. When that starts to happen, then it gets different. And for me too, you know, that's why, you know, for the AI that I think, you know, my AI overlords love you. Could have put that out there before they take over. But yeah, they really, yeah, I do have more time now, and I have time to do more effective things. And I think that is a beauty of it, especially for experts. Anyone who's a true expert in their field, you can really leverage so much of that to just do more in your time.
Yeah, that's a great one to share. I think a lot of people can relate to that. Probably most of us have uttered those words. I don't have the time, or there's not enough time. So that's a good one.
Parents, and
I have I'll jump right in when we're talking about mind shift, Nikki. One of the things that, and I just told you earlier that my wife and I line dance. Now she picks up the steps very easily. I need repetition again and again and again and again, and I finally get it. The mind shift for a particular client I had, as part of what I do is I set them up, my clients, for speaking engagements, making sure they're in front of the right audiences. You know, people are hungry to hear what they have to say. And so one of the initiatives that I had explained it to him. You know, we rehearsed it, we got everything together on that, and then he didn't get it. And then we did it again, and then again, and weeks would go by, and he just couldn't wrap his head around it. So what I did is, you know, realize that his mind needs to be shifted. His mind needs to be shifted so that he realizes that he understands exactly what we're doing again and again and again. And he finally got it. You know, I knew he would eventually get it. It just was a tough nut for him to wrap his head around in doing that, since he and his team have to do this work. So I think that when you ask what was a mind shift, I think it's repetition is part of that thing for me and some of my clients.
Yeah, that's a good point. Well, that's how we learn, is the repetition.
Right.
Yeah, and the creation of new habits. Right.
Yes, absolutely. How about for you, Judy? Does a mindset shift come to mind that made the breakthrough possible for you or a client?
Well, I see it a lot with my clients. One of the more dramatic ones with me was back when I'd first started networking, and I was not comfortable speaking in public. I was even like, all right, I'm going to be in two people. I'm going to be in one, and just for like the 30-second intro, right? I mean, it wasn't, you didn't even have to stand up, right? And I was like, the breath wasn't, it really was uncomfortable for me. I had a history of not liking people to be paying attention to me, the center of attention, piano recitals, bridesmaids, all those things. I was like, it was just really uncomfortable for me. And I met somebody who said, oh, I'm really interested to hear more about what you do. I have a web TV show. Would you like to be on it? And of course, my thinking brain is like, that's exactly what you need to do. I said, thank you. That's wonderful. And the rest of me was like, very uncomfortable, terrified, panicked.
Yeah.
But I also knew I had tools to work with this.
Yes.
And I've got a fire alarm going on.
Oh, that's what I was wondering what that sound was.
Yeah. If it gets louder, I'll have to leave.
I don't hear it anymore.
Yeah, it stopped for a minute.
Change that battery.
Yeah.
It's not a battery.
Okay.
But anyway, so I had to go home and do a lot of work before I showed up for that show.
Mhm.
And there were tons of beliefs, right? I mean, just, I don't have anything important to say. I'm going to look stupid. I don't want people, it's, all the things that would show up.
Right.
But when I got there, I was really glad I had been able to work through all those, because there were 5 cameras, 5 live feeds,
Oh, wow.
3 shares. It was a 1-hour TV show.
Wow.
It was fun.
I was going to say, that sounds very exciting
Good.
and fun.
It was.
Wow.
It was a great conversation. I looked at it later, was very relieved that I didn't look ridiculous, right? That I didn't look like I had no idea what I was talking about. It went fun, and that was very reassuring. But yeah, being able to change those beliefs was a really big deal.
Oh, yeah.
Big deal.
Mm-hmm. One thing I find, and this is both with myself and clients, the mindset shift that's required for the breakthrough to happen. A common one is being willing to admit, I got it wrong, or I made a mistake. It's so natural to our beliefs are our convictions, to be so to hold on to them so tightly, to be married to them, to even consider something else. It's almost like you've got to abandon yourself and what you have thought to be true for 30, 40 years. So I find that when people are willing to even consider that maybe something else is possible, maybe not that I was wrong all this time, but there might be another interpretation. That's where they can even then see that there's another possibility and they can have a breakthrough.
Yeah, absolutely. We usually teach, not teach, but we're a lot of people that are in the service-based, industries they undercharge, right? And so as coaches, we're always like, you want to charge a market rate. Let's raise your prices to a realistic rate, right? But then sometimes it won't make sense. And so I had a client that was getting this feedback, and it was through a nutrition portion of it. They worked with men's health. And so the male clients were, they were saying, great. They'd come to the nutrition part of it, even though it was a very powerful part and not really that big of an expense of the part. Well, I can do that at home. And it invalidated the whole thing for them. And so you get that one time, you get that 2 times, but they started tracking, because I'm like, let's track this. And sure enough, it was pretty much, and they were only able to get people on these memberships, right? Not a real core offer where they could really get a strong result. And so they said, I know that you said we had to do it, but I think I'm going to actually lower the price. We will still have actually a better margin, because the cost of goods with this nutritional part is so high. I actually think I can raise the actual profit margin, but lower the price. But I'm just going to get rid of that. I don't feel like there's a value, and the numbers are telling me this. And I'm like, absolutely. 100% of the people closed on it in the next month, raised them almost 30 grand because they went. And of course, everybody's like, raise. That's going to be too low. That's going to be too this. But then when you can change that and say, no, I'm really going to let the numbers tell me rather than what I feel and what I'm hearing, and take that emotion out of it, then all of a sudden it was a major breakthrough. So
that's huge. I could see how that being a mindset shift is to take the emotion out of it and just look at what's true, what's a fact here, and make your decision based on that.
It wasn't what I'm doing the whole program, because usually that's what they would say. They said, let's really listen to what people are saying. And it was just like in this market, they didn't really value that. They really felt that that portion of it was something that they could do and they're fine. Just hand them a piece of paper, tell them what to eat and what supplements they'll buy on their own. They really just were jaded against it for whatever reason. And so to make that decision and go, okay, that's fine, but we can still do the rest because that's really what you're here for. And you shouldn't just shoot yourself in the foot and say no because of this one thing. We'll just take that apart. Right. And it just worked out so well. Doing it.
Love when that happens. Yeah. It's like, the universe, things happen for you.
Right.
Things do work out in your favor when you're aligned, right, Judy?
That's right.
You're aligned with the outcome that you want. Yeah. Well, this has been a great conversation. I really enjoyed it. It flew by, and we're nearing that end of the show. And this is where I'd like to give everybody an opportunity to take 45 seconds and share anything you'd like with the audience, how they can get in touch with you, anything about what you do. And we'll start with Judy, and then we'll go to Jennifer.
Okay, great. Well, I help people take out their head trash. I don't provide coaching support. I don't do behavior, tools, strategy, accountability. I focus on changing the subconscious beliefs themselves that are creating a block somewhere, but keeping them from whatever their goal is, the conscious goal. So if people want to know more about that, they can go to my website, book a free phone conversation, and I can, answer their questions, give them more information. I'd love to speak with them.
And I highly recommend you do reach out to Judy. I've worked with her, and it's amazing how quickly she can take a belief that you've had for 40 plus years, and in minutes, it's just gone. And you feel different, and then you behave differently, and you see the world differently. So thank you, Judy, for the work that you do.
Thanks, Nikki.
Absolutely. Jennifer, you're up next.
Well, you can go to, if you want to talk to me, I work with a service-based business owners. So if you're in either local or even if you're virtual in your service-based, then I help take your business further, right? Wherever you're at. And I do a lot of things that Judy doesn't. The accountability, we look at the numbers. It's a mix of consulting and coaching. So I'll give you a lot of tactical things that you can do, from softwares, or if you're in healthcare, EHR, what CRM you're using if you're not. So it's a good mix between that. But all you have to do is go to superclinicproject.com. If you see my picture, click on it, and you can bring a challenge to a free 15-minute call with me. And even if we never talk again, I love that. Like, just say, this is what my challenge is. And I'll be like, okay, let's go. Like, let's see what we can do. And we'll brainstorm, and it'll be fun. And then you can kind of dip your toe and see what it might be like for you to make those shifts.
Yeah, that's awesome that you offer that.
Yeah, it's fun.
It's
fun for me.
Yeah, it is fun.
Yeah, because it's like being put on the spot, right? I'm like, okay, what is it going to be? Yeah.
It could be a fun challenge.
It is. Yeah.
Yeah. Excellent. Thank you, Jennifer. So check out Jennifer. Her website is up on the screen, and you can connect with her. And David, you're up next.
Jennifer, you're right. We have a lot in our toolboxes, right? And we just want to look at that. I know Judy does, so it's just, what I do, I'm a marketing strategist, and I'm brought in to help businesses who are struggling with their marketing. If they're not struggling with their marketing, I'm not the guy. But if they're struggling, then we try to do initiatives and interesting things. So 3 words that one should always remember is we want to make your marketing, your publicity, and your branding a little unexpected. And then, of course, we want to make sure that it's memorable. We take some real estate in their mind. And then lastly, we want to make sure it's shareable. So with those three words, we're able to become very creative and do some really interesting things so that individuals or businesses get in front of the right audience. Thanks.
You're welcome. Thank you, David. And that's really important that you are memorable. So when someone does need your services, they think of you and not somebody else. So thank you, David, for the work that you do. You can connect with David. His information is on the screen. And I'm Nikki Gangemi, owner of Mindful Matters LLC. I call myself a personal trainer for the mind, and coaching and hypnotherapy is what I do, helping people to change that the subconscious programs that we have that are running the show. Only always. You can check me out at my website, nikkigangemi.com. I do monthly complimentary experiences called the Reset Lab for high achievers, and each month is a different topic. August, it's all about moving from pressure to presence. So you can speak up and say what you want with ease and confidence. So I'd love to have you join us there. And I want to thank our guests today, Judy and Jennifer, for coming on, David for being a fabulous co-host, and for our audience for tuning in. We've really enjoyed having you along the ride with us. So thank you so much, everybody.
Thanks. I enjoyed the conversation.
Me too.
Awesome. Excellent. Thank you, guys. Have a great day.
Bye.
Bye-bye.